Okay, part 2. So now we're going to make the lemon curd and then we'll make the berry compote. So first of all, we need 4 eggs, as in egg yolks only, and then we need 2 whole eggs. We need half a cup of lemon juice, 125 grams of butter, and 1.5 cups of sugar. So with the butter, I didn't bother measuring it. I just looked at the measurements that are already on the packet. It says 50, 150, 200, sorry, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, and I cut it in half because that's what I did the last time round. So I know that the butter that's left in there right now is going to be 125 grams. So it's just basically, it's in half. So that goes into my saucepan. There's a little bit of butter left on that. You can stick it back in the fridge. You can use that for wiping around cake tins and things like that for next time you bake a cake. All right, so just turning it on low heat to melt it. And we need to just make sure that while we're melting the butter that we don't actually burn it and make it go brown, because that'll make it bitter. And that's great for some other more savoury dishes, but not for this. So slowly letting it melt. That will take a couple of minutes. Have our whisk ready. Got my sugar ready. And the other thing that I'm going to do is to crack, while the butter is melting, is to crack the other 2 eggs into a cup. Remove any shell that goes in. That's it. And then that can go in with our other eggs, as in the egg yolks that we did from before. So we're not wasting anything. We've used the egg whites in the pavlova. We're using the egg yolks in the lemon curd. Okay. And just checking on the butter. It is coming around, it is melting. And just while we're waiting, I just need to whisk those eggs together. And that butter is because the pavlova bases are now ready, and we'll go and check those out. Just to show you, they've spread, they've gone golden brown, they're slightly crisp. That means they're ready. I would normally take them out of the oven. I would normally just have a look. And now all I do is just turn the oven off. And in a few minutes' time, I'll open up the oven door to let the cool out, and to let the heat out, sorry, and so they cool down. All right, back to the butter. Still melting. We've got everything ready because once we've got our butter, we add all the other ingredients. We need to whisk constantly, otherwise what can happen is that those threads of white, from the white in there that you can see, will actually cook on their own, and then you'll have these lumpy bits in your lemon curd, and that's what we don't want. So when you are cooking it again, the next part of this is we need to make sure that it's cooking at a low to medium heat. It will thicken. It won't completely thicken. It will thicken more once it cools down and it's set. And then once it goes into the fridge, it will cool down and set even more. So we'll just see how our butter's going. The butter is trying to have a little boil at the moment, so I've just taken it off the heat. One of the good things to remember is that whenever you've got something and you can't control that heat, particularly electric, it takes a long time to cool down and heat up. If you've got something that's too hot, just move the pan up and off the heat. Now that is almost there. I'm going to turn that down a little. Now I'm actually using the smallest burner on my stove to do this, so that it is so that it's not going to burn the butter. Okay, now the butter has completely melted. Just a second. And what we're going to do now is to add the sugar. Oh, what I haven't done is the lemon juice. Forgive me for 1 second. We'll just put that to the side. So we need half a cup of lemon juice because this is lemon curd. It won't be very exciting without that. So we need to use some of the zest. The zest is just that lemony part on the outside. You don't want the white pith underneath. And what this will give our lemon curd a beautiful flavour. And you just can see, I'm just going over it once and you turn it around. We'll get as much of that in as we can. If you prefer to have lemon curd less zesty or less lemony, then don't add as much zest. If you like it very lemony like I do, then add all of the zest that you can. And it will take a few minutes, and you can just see that there's these tiny little bits of the outer skin from the lemon coming through. Now, another thing to remember when you're zesting lemons, traditionally if you buy your lemons from Coles and they're not organic, you'll find they wax them so they keep them for longer. You need to really scrub that wax off, otherwise you're eating all that wax in there as well. These lemons came from the Manly markets and they came from one of the little organic stores in there. They're super sized, they're absolutely huge. Okay, you can see that I've just about taken all of that zest off. Let's put that to the side, and the back of the grater is a lot more zest sitting inside. Now, of course, this will put some little tiny lumps into our curd. If you don't like those lumps or that little feeling that something in it, then probably leave the zest out, but you won't get all that beautiful flavour. Okay. So that's our zest. The next thing that we need to do is that we need half a cup of lemon juice. And just gently get that out. If you didn't have fresh lemons, of course you could always use that lemon juice that you can buy in the shops, but then it's coming in a plastic container, whereas this, can be composted, recycled, and which is much better for the environment than buying one of those bottles. Okay. I don't think I've had such juicy lemons in a long time. They are absolutely divine. Another thing that you can do with your lemons is that you can make, you can preserve the lemon skins and then use them in for other cooking, which I won't go into detail on that today, but that's something else that you can do if you really want to use up the leftover of the lemon. Now I've got just over half a cup of lemon juice there, so we'll stop at that point and we'll get our sugar into the butter. We'll get our lemon juice in, but I'm just going to leave a little bit out because I just don't quite need it all. Checking those eggs, they can go in as well. And stirring, and we need to take it back over to the heat, which I've left on from before, and we need to be whisking the whole time to make sure that comes together. At the moment it still feels very grainy, but as the sugar melts and it will mix with the butter, and then eventually it will thicken up. Now I might turn this up a little just to get this moving, but be careful not to turn it up too much because you don't want those eggs cooking. Just like when you're making a real custard from eggs and other recipes as well. You need to really be careful with those eggs. Okay, it's feeling less grainy. The sugar is just about mixed in. Now, this recipe will be placed onto the OneNote along with all of the other recipes that we're doing for this term. So look out for that, for the recipe book in there. What I might do is that small burner it's currently on is not really heating it up enough. I'm going to take it to a bigger burner at the back. Turn that front one off. Now initially when I put the four of them together they seem to separate, but as the sugar's melted and the butter is all coming to one, it is homogenizing as a group of ingredients, but it still hasn't really thickened. I think I mentioned for the first time I tried to make meringues with dextrose. It didn't work out. I'm not sure if I mentioned the dextrose actually has a lower burning point, which is probably why I did burn the first batch of meringues. I did make the lemon curd with it, and the lemon curd came out beautiful with the dextrose, but I really want to show you how this comes together. And it's reacting slightly differently to the way the first batch that I made. It was already thick by now. So the dextrose has a level of fructose, which is good for different people on various diets that are out there. That's why people use the dextrose instead of ordinary white sugar. Here we go, it's just starting to thicken. I'm just going to turn that down a little now because we don't want the eggs curdling in. Might have to lower that temperature just a little bit. Now we've done this in real time so that you can see how long this actually takes to do. Let's turn it up a little bit more. Slowly starting to thicken. Maybe a little bit more up. Yeah, always play with the temperatures and watch the temperatures. You can turn things up and down, and as I mentioned before, if something gets too hot, you can always lift the saucepan up so that it has a chance to cool. We don't want this to boil. The camera, you can really see that it's thick. Now I think that's probably thick as it's going to go. And that what will happen is when it cools, that's when it will thicken even more, because it's trying to boil, so we turn it down. Right. It's all come together. It's thicker than what it was. It's not as thick as it will get. We're just going to turn that off. And we're going to let that cool. Now, if you were just using this for, say, you want to have it on toast, you would now place this into a sterilised jar. A sterilised jar is something that's come out from either the dishwasher, that will make it sterilised. You can also sterilise jars in the oven or on the stove top with boiling water. And don't forget to do the lids as well. Probably wouldn't put the lid in the oven, but on the stove top in boiling water, in the dishwasher, that will be fine. Another way of sterilising is if you've still got the really hot preserve that you're making, you can always pour it straight into a jar and then seal the lid fairly soon. It will create a vacuum, turn it upside down, and so long as it is really hot, then that too will actually provide a sterilisation. But some people still prefer to do other methods. It's up to you what you would prefer to do. The other thing we didn't do was put our rind in, so we'll pop that in and stir that in. And then that will actually be our lemon curd done. It'll be a beautiful zesty lemon curd. And that's it. Okay. All right, now moving on to the compote. Let me just clear away a couple of things here so I've got some space to move. So all we're doing is that we've got a cup of frozen berries, we need some sugar, and we place them into a small saucepan. And I've got raspberries. We just need, so look at your nose, we just need a tablespoon of, 2 tablespoons of sugar syrup. There's a lot of sugar in this recipe. So this is one of those recipes that we wouldn't have all the time, but it's probably a good party or dinner, if you're having a dinner party dessert. Okay, so we also need to add some water. Now, I wouldn't add too much water because there's a lot of water coming out of those already. And we also need a little bit of lemon juice, which is just what we've saved there. That goes in. And I'll just add a little bit of water to that. I won't be a moment. Okay, so we've combined all the ingredients in a saucepan and we cook over a medium heat for approximately 10 minutes so that it comes right down, that all of those will break down and be a beautiful red sauce. Again, it feels quite granular. And we'll just put that, just turn it down a touch. We can probably just leave that for a moment, but we will need to check on it because we don't want the sugar to burn. Okay, so 10 minutes of cooking. I will see you in a few minutes. Bye.